Simon, welcome to the Startup Show on Babylon Plus.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have a fellow Brit here for the first time, sitting with me in the hot seats.
I'm surprised you guys have let two British people loose on this podcast.
I'm surprised too, but it's going well so far, and hopefully it'll keep going well. But firstly, thanks a lot for making the time to join us today.
Anytime.
How are you?
Fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Sunny weather outside, birds are singing, sun's shining. What could we want more?
What could we want more? Yeah. And today, obviously, podcast is about business. We've got people here listening. They really, really want to learn about how they can get started or how they can keep moving forward. You're a business owner.
Indeed, indeed.
Tell us about your business. What's it called?
So my company is called Let's Go Native, which is quite a fun name. And it's basically English language camps and like summer schools for teenagers across Europe. So we basically bring kids from Belgium, France, Germany, basically most of Western Europe and further afield to come together for a residential 1 week or 2 weeks where they learn English, they practice soft skills, we build their confidence, and they leave the camp after a week, usually in tears because they don't want to go home.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah. And we've been going for 3 years now. I started from my laptop here in Erbil.
Here in Erbil?
Here in Erbil, yeah.
You started it and you're managing them, and the camps are in Belgium. Where else did you say?
Belgium, Netherlands, England. We have kids from France, Germany. So we have bases all over Western Europe.
How do you find that, managing the business from afar? Is it a challenge, or is it easier than we think?
Man, we're living in a global world now, you know?
Yeah.
Like you can do anything from your laptop. So as long as I have to be there physically, but that's very seasonal, right? It's in the holidays. It's kids are in school for most of the year. So in the holiday times, we're in Europe. I'm there. A little flight quickly, 6 hours to Europe. You can do direct flights to Germany now in 4 hours from Erbil. For the rest of the time, I can be here on my laptop, working on the marketing, working on the customer service, working on team management, all from my laptop. Easy.
I don't know why I'm saying that to you. I do exactly the same thing now as well. So I built my business in England, and now I'm managing things from here in Erbil. And once you've got the systems in place, it's easier. But to get to that point, sometimes it takes a bit of time. You have to make some guidelines clear to your team, quality control, all of that. There's probably quite a few challenges to get to that point, I imagine you had to go through.
I think starting a business nowadays is a lot different to, one, what social media tells you it should be, two, what it was 40 years ago when the old boys were starting businesses. I think business is very different now. Like a lot of people, especially with the cost of living crisis that's happening globally, a lot of people are kind of turning to these side hustles and turning to like, how can I do something for myself? And it looks a lot different than it used to. A lot of people now have their normal 9-to-5 job that they do, and then in the evenings for a few hours, they'll do their side hustle. And that's how my business started, right? So I was working a full-time job here, and I thought, you know what, I want to do something. This is an industry that I've worked in for other people for a long time. And I thought, okay, let me just try something. Let me start some marketing. I can do it all from my laptop. I can do it in the evenings. I don't have to, you have all of those videos from people who are now multimillionaires and said, when I started my business, I slept on my friend's sofa. I struggled, I was eating super noodles every day for 2 years just to make this grind happen. It doesn't have to work like that. And I think they post these videos and they have this kind of narrative to make it seem like it's really difficult and to kind of boost, like, look what I did. But the world's changed. We're global now. We don't have to do that. You can do a few hours a night. You can start building something. And when it gets to a point, that's when you take the leap. And that's when you jump into the business fully. So yeah, I think a few hours a day, that's how I started. And now it's my full-time, my side hustle became my full hustle.
Yeah, and that's a good place to start, because you're building from a place of stability. You're not worrying about month to month how you're going to pay your bills, rent, food. You've got something sustainable, and in your spare time, you're also building towards something that's it's creating the foundations for your future. Because if you're relying on employment at any given point, someone might cut that contract. They might not need the need. They might not have the need for you anymore, and so that then creates an environment where you're not as stable as, even though it's a stable job.
Which is funny, because people talk about entrepreneurialism as unstable, right? When the whole life is unstable. Of course it is. Working in any job, you're there for 10 years, you're there for 15 years, you're there for 20 years. As soon as they don't require the need for that function anymore, as soon as they realize the shareholders are like, we need to cut some corners, oh, thank you for your time. It's been lovely working with you. Here's your redundancy. Bye bye. Just as unstable. And people talk about, oh, but you need to invest in your future. I see making a business is investing in your future, right?
You're
So that
investing in yourself,
you're
the
investing in
skills.
yourself, and
Yeah.
if you believe in yourself, this money I could have put into a low yielding bond that I've put into the business, but like, no, let's put it into a business, and then maybe in 5, 10 years, instead of having this investment bonds that you have a business that is producing for you for life, and it's producing for everybody who works for you. It's adding to the community. So yeah, I think it's a little bit of a fallacy, the 9 to 5. And I'm not saying that being an entrepreneur and having your own business doesn't have its own stresses and challenges. You'll know just as well as I, there's sleepless nights,
Yeah.
there's tears, there's blood, sweat and tears, there's everything, but it's in your hands and you get out what you put in, right?
100%. And I think, yeah, just to build on your point about the 10, 15, 20-year commitment with a company or with any organization, that loyalty eventually will count for nothing if they don't need you. At the end of the day, you're there to perform a service. If that service is no longer required or it becomes obsolete, we've got AI coming in even more so now. That's one prime example of maybe a transition we're going to face now in society where a lot of people are going to, I want to say be made redundant, but they're going to need to learn new skills to still be relevant in society. And so with entrepreneurship, one of the things I personally love, and you probably, when you first started spending your evenings, weekends doing, you have to learn new skills. You have to step out of what you already know so that you can create value, but also market that value or present it in such a way that other people understand it. And then they trust you to the point where they will be like, yeah, here is my money. I would like that value that you're providing. And that takes time figuring that out. There is no playbook. And I think now some of these entrepreneurs that you mentioned, these millionaires, they talk about skills and tips and struggles or challenges they went through, the sleepless nights as well, but they probably had a few. But there's a lot of good information out there, but it's very difficult to decipher. And so one of the things we try and aim here is just to have an unfiltered conversation to
Yeah.
literally talk about the realities, because there is challenges. It's not going to be easy, but the reward is big when you get it right. And not just financially, you're creating opportunities for people, as you said. You're giving them employment, you're giving them work, purposeful work. Tell me about your employees. Do they enjoy the work that they do with you guys?
Yeah, man. Like everyone who works for us, I kind of like to think that they would still be with us if we didn't pay them a cent. We didn't pay them a single penny. They'd still want to do the job because they believe in what they're doing and they believe in what we're doing. So a lot, I didn't really mention before, but a lot of what we do in our company, it's all about empowerment. And we look to where, depending, it doesn't matter what political side you're on, it doesn't matter who you are, the world is a little bit of a difficult place, and things don't always go right, and there's so much bad stuff happening around the world. So we were thinking, how do we just make little pockets of good and little pockets of good influence? And that starts with children, right? It starts with the youth. It starts with these kids that don't really know what's happening. They see all of these things on the news, on their TikTok. They don't know where to get these facts. So we talk about adults not really being able to decipher all of the information that's coming in.
How can we?
How can we
Yeah,
expect kids to do it, right? So we thought, okay, let's build a company based around teaching these life skills, and like maybe just flicking the kids in a slightly different direction from when they see idiots on social media. Like I don't know if I can say his name, but people who you know aren't so nice about women, for instance, or aren't so nice, or saying, "Oh, being rich is all about having nice cars," and this is what the kids see on, this is what kids idolize. We kind of like bring them in and say, "Okay, let's watch his videos together." The guy with no hair was arrested recently in
yeah,
England.
yeah. I know who you're
You
talking
know what
about.
I'm
I'm sure.
talking about. So I say, "Okay, kids, let's watch his videos together. How does it make you feel?" "Oh, he's a cool guy." "Why is he a cool guy?" "Because he has a Ferrari." "Ah, how did he get the Ferrari?" "Ah, because and then we start to change their way of
Unpack it.
thinking.
Yeah.
We start unpacking like, "Oh, but he did this and these people got hurt because of it. Is it still nice to buy a Ferrari from having this money from here?" "Oh no, we didn't think about it like that." So we look at these videos together, we look at these ideas together, and we slightly just put them in a slightly different direction and a more positive, a more empathetic and loving kind of way. And we thought, okay, we can do that with the kids, and we can make them feel good about themselves, make them feel good about other people. And my staff who work for us and work with us, they're like a family to us, and they have the same ideas. They want the kids to improve, because how do we change the next generation in Europe. How do we do it? With the kids, because these kids who we have in the camp, they're
They're
the
going to
next
be the
lawyers,
future.
they're the next teachers, they're the next doctors, they're the next people of influence. Let's get them while they're young. Let's reset what they're seeing because they see so much rubbish on social media. And I think our teachers, our staff, our animators would do it for no money.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, like obviously your business model or the main lure of it is to speak English at a native level or improve their current English speaking abilities even more so. And within that, you've laced these values that I imagine you personally believe in and your team believes in. And so you're not just creating people that are able to speak on a higher level in the English language, but also you're creating better people as a result of that. And that's
Yeah, to be honest with you, the English is kind of a byproduct of what we're doing, which where English was supposed to be the primary focus, it's now kind of the byproduct. We do all of these projects, all of these conversation pieces, all of these activities. And the way I kind of describe it to people is like when you're trying to give a baby an injection, when you take them to the doctors, you shake the keys over here to distract and you give them the booster or the flu shot or whatever.
yeah.
We see English as the flu shot, and everything else we're doing is the distraction. So the kids don't even realize that after a week or after a night or a day of speaking English constantly, they don't even realize they were doing that because they were so interested and so focused on what the project or the conversation or the debate or the argument that they don't realize they've just been doing it all in English. So the English is actually a byproduct of the other things we do on the camp, but the parents always comment the kid is speaking more English in a week with us than after a year in school. And that's because the way we do it is our philosophy, right?
That's like a level of immersion. Like I'm not sure how it works in the camps. Do you do any whiteboard or lessons like typical traditional lessons, or do you just literally put them in activities, put them in different environments, working with different groups of students as well, working towards maybe challenges or discussion topics like the one you mentioned earlier, and that's how they get their English.
We try to do an 80-20. So we do it, but we do it in a natural way. So you'll never get like a gap fill. So you remember like learning Spanish or something in school. You're basically just given a photocopy of a textbook. It's like fill in the little gaps in a Maria is lleno. Oh, she's full. And you just had to do that for an hour while the teacher's just like playing on the phone in the front or whatever. We don't do that. So we do the projects and say we see a kid or we see some mistakes coming from the kids where we're like, they're kind of using the past tense wrong in this. We'll stop the class, we'll pull out the projector and an iPad and a whiteboard and say, okay, kids, we've seen that a lot of you are using the past continuous a little bit incorrectly because you're not remembering. So this is how we do it. We'll do a quick 10-minute snapshot of grammar, like a typical classroom where they have to copy it and give me some sentences. Okay, back to the project. So it's a more natural way of doing things, and we do it when we see the
It's
mistakes
like
recurring.
reactive. So it's like as they need it, as the relevance is at its highest, that's when you introduce the
Yeah, and
information.
that's how they remember it. Because doing the gap fills in school, they don't remember it. Because I'm teaching them stuff that they've already learned in school for 2 years. Why don't they remember it?
Do you like? For me, I remember a lot of stuff when I was younger. The stuff that I remember, you remember stuff when you were in primary school, ish.
So.
I remember stuff, and usually the stuff that I remember, it's a handful of stuff because obviously I'm much older now, and that was many, many years ago. But the stuff that I remember are the things that I was very, very had a very, very positive emotion associated with it, or a very, very negative emotion. The very, very positive emotions were related to a surprise football birthday party that my parents threw for me when I was in year 3. So that's around 7, I think, 8 years old, if I remember. Yeah. And I remember that feeling of euphoria, and I still remember it to this day. And I know that surprises, when done right, are really,
Yeah.
really good and impactful. And likewise with other areas, like good or bad. And so what you're doing is, because they're enjoying the camp, they have a very, very positive memory of it. But the information that they learn there, they retain it because they lace it with positive memories. And so that's something that we do with our programs as well. But that is something that you're tapping into, maybe, I'm not sure, consciously, unconsciously, but you create an experience where they're not going to forget it in a hurry. And as you're saying, they leave the camp crying, but
Yeah.
crying in a good way, not a bad
Yeah,
way. So
it's crazy, man. Like, I don't think we see it from any other companies. I've worked in a lot of camp companies over the time and different, and we just don't see it. It's usually the parents who make the purchase decision, the parents who force the kid to come, basically. So on the first day, we see the kids. Some of them are crying because it's the first time away from home. They don't want to be there. They had a party planned with their friends, and they're kind of looking a little bit angry and like, I don't want to be here. And I love it, and the staff love it, and we take photos of this time of the thing, and we just see all of these kind of depressed faces, like, oh, I have to go to an English camp in my holiday. It's so funny because we know that in 7 days' time, when they have to go home, they're going to be crying when they have to leave. And it happens every single time. And it's hilarious to us. Having like a huge 17-year-old boy who's the same size as me, 6 foot tall, and crying his eyes out because he doesn't want to go home is just, it's great for marketing, in one, but it just shows what we're doing is making a difference and giving people a positive educational experience. So we have a lot of kids with ADHD. So we actually publicize quite a lot that we'll take kids with ADHD because it's growing. I don't know why it's growing. I don't know what the situation is. There's lots of different trains of thought of why ADHD is becoming more of a thing. If it's a thing, there's lots of different trains of thought. I'm not going to get into that. But we have kids who have been diagnosed with ADHD, and they come to our camps increasingly because we say to the parents, leave the medication at home. Leave it at home because they have it in school. They're somewhat dosed up in school so they can fit into the educational box that's
Mold, yeah.
required of them to sit still and do the gap fill. Habibi, I'm not going to sit still and do a gap fill for 4 hours a day. Like, how do we expect a kid to do it who wants to be active and wants to learn in a different way? The kid's not the problem. It's the way that we're teaching them that's the problem. Montessori has got it right. There's a reason why I think something crazy like 30% of all Fortune 500 CEOs went to a Montessori school. I think the number actually might be higher. And there's a reason. It's the way of learning. It's the way of engaging kids. So these kids who have ADHD or ADD that come to our camps, they're not a problem. They generally get upset when they leave because they've never had such a positive educational experience, because in school, they're the problem. They're being kicked out of class because they won't sit still. They're being kicked out of class because they won't do the gap fill. In our camps, no, the projects are active. We're moving. We change them every hour. We change. We do something new. There's no problem. We love their energy. It actually helps the camp. And the parents come and be like, wait, we give them an evaluation at the end. It says excellent behavior, excellent, excellent, excellent. And the parent gets it and is like, is this correct? Because the parent's also been told that their child's a problem.
And this is the thing, it comes from, obviously we're talking about education here fundamentally, and it comes from a lack of education in terms of how to engage young people. Now, at different learning levels, from 3 to 5, 5 to 11, there's a transition that the students are going through mentally, physically, and the way that they engage naturally, they've got curiosity when they're young. They ask questions like, why? Why is the sky blue?
Mm-hmm.
Some people tell them it is because that's the way it is, or they give them an answer so that they don't keep asking questions. And eventually the schooling system, I don't want to go into that too much, but generally across the board around the world, it puts them into a narrow frame of thinking. It makes them, more often than not, think in closed ways so that they don't think divergently or try and explore or, channel that inner curiosity into different projects, different ways of thinking or doing hands-on activities like you're doing, and that is rewarded in a way because the exams are assessed in that way. And I understand a little bit why they want to create people that are going to feed into the economy, that are going to contribute to jobs that they feel are very important, and so they want a standardized way of assessing that. They do 1 to 30 teaching, and there is at the end of the year an exam that measures how they rank compared to their peers.
Yes.
And that is standardized across different schools in the region and blah blah blah. We can go into that. That's great for metrics and monitoring exams and who's performing well versus the others compared to the same ruler, the same scale, the same measuring stick. But unfortunately, it does nothing for the student.
Great for metrics, terrible for education.
What you have in your camps is something that I love personally, and it really, really speaks to my own internal beliefs that learning shouldn't be a chore. It should be an immersive experience that allows people to transcend what they know in a way that's just so engaging, so fulfilling. And as you're saying, after day 7, they're crying because they have seen now, you've unlocked in their mind something that they may have never experienced before in their lives. Or if they did, it was such an old memory that they had when they were young, and they thought, oh, it was because they were children, they enjoyed things more. And now that they're older, everything's become boring or disengaging or blah, blah, blah. But in actual fact, no, you can still create those environments which foster creativity, teamwork, but in a way that is so more impactful than anything they've ever. Like, I imagine, this is just me being predicting, in 1 week of your camp, full immersion English and the activities that you have, I'm going to hazard a guess to say that they learn more in that week than they probably learn in 1 year studying English at school.
Absolutely.
Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
Imagine if they had that 52 weeks of the year in other subjects.
Yep.
How much more, how much faster would they develop in these areas that everyone deems important if the learning was done in an engaging way, if the learning was actually meeting the students at their level, their way of thinking, their way of interacting, their way of enjoying.
But it comes down to a teacher trainings issue as well, because it's difficult to do what we do, right? To turn the kind of narrative or the teaching style from teacher-centered, which is 1 to 30, which is how it is. Everyone, look at me on the whiteboard, listen, don't speak for an hour, copy what I'm doing, to student-centered, where your students are all learning themselves and you as a teacher are going around and facilitating what they're doing. It's a difficult skill to have. Sometimes we hire teachers to come and work on the camp. I don't really do it anymore because when we say in English, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right?
Yeah.
And they're too locked into this way, and this kind of free way of teaching where you have to be dynamic, you have mixed levels, you have mixed abilities, you have different needs in the class, and you have to be attuned to all of them and also do learning with all of them, also pick up when you've seen patterns in mistakes. It's a difficult skill to have, and it requires a new type of training. So I usually take student teachers. You've not really been in a school yet, you've not been kind of tarnished by the education system. Let me teach you our way. Come in, and it opens their mind. They love it.
And I bet you for them too, they've seen a way of working, a way of teaching that they've probably never thought or never seen before. And they're going to take that with them wherever they go. If they stay with you for following camps or if they go on their onward teaching journey elsewhere, they're going to see that these students are engaged in a level that, typical schools don't have. They're going to want to bring that. And so you're actually creating not just, opportunities for students, you're creating opportunities for teachers to benefit from these insights that they can also share and try and adapt into schools that they go on and work in during the year.
And I have to say, it's not all about the education as well. It's about mindset of the teacher. And I'll give you an example. We did I won't mention the name because we still work with them quite a lot, but we did a school trip where sometimes we take whole classes of schools and we bring them in and we do like a week intensive course or a week immersive camp, because it's more difficult to go to the UK now. So a lot of schools in Europe used to go to the UK pre-Brexit. Now it's a little bit more difficult. So it's great for us because we can provide that native English experience on the mainland in the EU. So we do it. And I remember we took the kids to a trip out somewhere in a city. And the kids were all happy. They were all wearing our merchandise. It looked great. It's a beautiful sunny day. And we were just walking down the street, and one of the kids came up to me, and it was strange for us because we also had 4 of their teachers from the school come to be with us. So it was it's strange because we're in charge as a camp because we manage the kids and we it's our product, but the teachers are there just to monitor. And I remember one of the kids came up to me and was like, Simon, can I buy an ice cream? Because all the kids had their pocket money because we told them to bring pocket money. It was a sunny day. There was absolutely no reason in the world for the kid not to have an ice cream. Why the hell not? You've got money in your pocket that your parents have given you. It's a sunny day. We're having a beautiful time. The teacher, before I could answer, no, don't buy an ice cream. We can have ice cream back at the place. And I took the teacher aside and said, what made you say that? Why was that level of control required? Like, what was the worst thing going to be happening if this kid, smiley as anything, could have an ice cream in the sun when he's out with his friends? And they were like, because it's probably going to be more expensive. No, we're here. Let the kid have fun. So I went back to the kid and said, we'll wait for you. It's going to take us 30 seconds. The group will wait. Buy an ice cream. Anyone else want to buy an ice cream while we're here? That little thing of just getting the kid on side as well and saying, like, we don't just arbitrarily say no to things because that's the way we're taught to do it in schools for control purposes. My kind of philosophy with the kids, if they're safe, if they're happy, and they're learning English, nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. Get your ice cream. Get 2 ice creams. You're on holiday. You're away from your parents. Get 3 ice creams. I don't care. Be happy. Clean up the vomit afterwards. But yeah, get 3 ice creams. Have that experience. Be happy. And we find that if we let them do things like that in the break times and when we're out and we show that level of kind of flexibility, they'll give us 100% of themselves in the projects, in the lessons.
Yeah, you've earned their trust, you've earned their buy-in, I think there's something to be said about that. And I I mean, we're talking really in depth about the student experience here, which I absolutely love. But I want to understand more about you and your background. Like, how did you figure this stuff out? Did so you said you worked in other camps before. You probably
Yeah.
saw some good things, but like before all of that, like what's that? Like, did you study psychology at university or something? Because you're really tapping into the mindset of young people here and how they think and how they engage, and it's
Yeah,
not easy to pick up.
it's a strange one, isn't it? So I did business and enterprise for my bachelor's in Leeds University, and it great course. It was a brand new course. I think it was there was only 4 universities doing it that year. It was a brand new course, and I loved it. And while I was there, I saw an advertisement on the job fair board in the university saying, "Do you want to teach on an English camp?" I'd never done it before. I've taught English before in my gap year. I went to Sri Lanka to teach English just randomly, just see some elephants, teach
Why
some
not?
English. Yeah, as a lot of people from England do in a gap year. But so I saw it, I did it, and I absolutely loved it. I saw it, and it's probably one of the best things that I'd ever done. So I continued working with this company more and more that I did a summer school for, and ended up directing some of the summer schools. And then I started running some of their internal processes of the company and recruitment because I saw the right type of teachers. And I think the best thing for me there was I went to work for some of the directors that they had in the camps, and I was quite young, so I was somewhere between the directors and the kids. So I could see how the kids were reacting to some of these rules and some of the things they had to do. I was like, that's not great. Feels like school. So I started feeding back some of this information to the owners of the company. It was a very old company, run for 50 years. And then slowly but surely, I began directing for them, and then directing more of their camps, and then recruiting directors for their camps, and then training directors, and then going into other camps to see what the problems were where the recruitment was. So I ended up working very closely for the company. Uh, Somewhere in between there, I did a master's in international business management, focusing on project management. So I found kind of this niche for me, which was educational management as my general niche going forward. So I ended up working universities and directing in these places and management of educational institutes. So that's how I got into this. I continued, even when I was working full time, I'd take time off work to go and work in the camps for the company because I loved it so much, and it was such a nice reset for me. So when you're on a camp, you have all of these stresses in the outside world. You have things you have to do. You meet your friends. You don't sleep a lot. You eat badly, especially if you're working a lot. You go for beers or something after school, not after school in England sometimes, but after work, and you have you can sometimes have a little bit of a difficult lifestyle. But when you're in a camp, you are completely present. You are there. You have a schedule. You have no kind of look to the outside world. Your phone, like my friends know that when I'm at camp, you won't hear from me for a week, right? They're not going to hear from me because you're there, you're locked into all of these different kids' needs. And it's such a nice feeling. It's like a little bit of a psychological retreat. So the teachers find it like that as well. Great for us. So I continued working with this company for quite a few years. And then I found that they were starting to pull back on some of the expenses. And when you're in this industry, and probably in quite a few industries, when you start spending less, the quality goes down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you start spending less and the quality goes down in this industry in particular, you get lower quality staff.
And that has its own problems
And that has
associated.
its own problems, especially when you're dealing with children. And so what I would find is because I was becoming quite well known in this space within Europe as being a camp director, um,
Your
my
reputation.
reputation was
Yeah.
going to start to get hurt. So I had a good job at the time. I started using my own money to get the staff I wanted for my camps.
Wait, so you're working for this company
Working for
and
this
you're
company,
putting your own money in
I was
there
putting
to help.
thousands in per camp just so I could get the stuff that I wanted.
That's
And
a level of, well, that's admirable, firstly, but
because I wasn't doing it for the money. I was doing it for I saw the benefit of, especially with the kind of kids we were having on the camp. We were having kids whose parents were doctors, lawyers, politicians. So it was quite a high level of social economic level of children coming, and I saw the benefit of having these kids who have some some negative ideas about immigration in Europe, about thingy. If they come to a camp and they see me as the leader, as a charismatic leader, and they fall in love with the camp, they fall in love with what I'm doing, it kind of changes their mindset when they see other people who look like me in that country. It kind of, and I saw this as
Oh,
more of a cultural exchange and a cultural shift, mind shift of these kids who are going to be the future leaders. So for me, it was much bigger than just, oh, I'm just going to go and teach in the summer school. I wanted to, like I say, improve the pocket of your influence. And that's what I wanted to do. And that was the first thing. So I started working. I started paying for the staff, and then at one point I just thought, you know what,
I might as well do this
enough
myself.
is enough. What are we doing here? I've just done business and enterprise. I've just done international business management. Let's go.
You got a fantastic apprenticeship at a company that's what 50 years, so that
Yeah,
established brand, they've already got their processes,
yeah.
improving them. They're not really investing in the ongoing development. So you're like, well, instead of me putting my money, let me put it into something else that's maybe my own. And I'm guessing that's when you started to transition into doing it yourself.
That's when I transitioned into Let's Go Native, and it was a rocky start. It was a rocky start, and actually, it's quite a common thing, right? So I've heard a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, when they often what will happen for an entrepreneur is they will work in an industry for 10 years, and then they have the idea, they learn the industry, and then they set up within that industry. Quite often, the people who you're working for, they get butthurt of this because
It's
they
like a
see
betrayal almost.
it's a betrayal. It's business.
Yeah.
It's business. Like they would do the same thing. They probably did do the same thing, but they see sometimes a company can see you a little bit as their property. You're their asset. And when the asset starts to get an idea and thinks, oh, the company gets scared, especially if the asset was good, because they're like, oh, damn, like they do a lot for my company. A lot of our profits are based on this person. They're going to leave and go against us. Usually what a big company will do, they'll sue.
So they'll try and discredit you.
They'll discredit you. They'll take you to court. It happened to a lot of big companies. I think Microsoft started because it was sued by IBM or something like this. It was one of these. Most big companies started by being sued by the previous company they worked for. It happens more often than not, and often it doesn't happen because they have a legitimate grievance. Not because there's anything legally wrong. Like if you do it all within the contract, if you have a contract saying we have a non-compete for 6 months after you leave. Okay, you wait 6 months, you set up the business, they'll still sue you because they realize that to start a business, you need capital, right? And what drains your capital more than anything?
Fighting a legal case.
Lawyers.
Yeah.
Lawyers. We love lawyers, don't we? But they cost a lot.
Well,
And
they win on both sides, don't they?
whether you win or lose, they have a Ferrari at the end of it. So that's what a lot of companies do. And lo and behold, it happened to me also.
So they sued you after you started your company?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, why not? It's over. It's finished.
So they came, they obviously saw what you were doing and they saw the potential because obviously they had nurtured you as a talent and obviously you grew into your own.
Yeah.
Like you probably taught them quite a few things by the end of it.
Yeah, I don't know how much they nurtured me. I learned a lot from being in a situation that I was in that company and I was in that. So I don't know how much they actually did, but I like to learn from my surroundings. So I did learn a lot working there. How much they did and how much they had it been them or any other company. Don't know if I would have learned more somewhere else. But I learned a lot. But yeah, I was in a court case with them, and this is where kind of like business immaturity can sometimes get a hold of you. So I could have been a little bit petty at the time, and I felt equally grieved that they would dare to sue me after I'd given them my blood, sweat, and tears for so many years. So they got a lawyer, and I got a bigger lawyer across the street from their lawyer, which was somewhat immature. And probably looking back at it now, I probably wouldn't do that, but I did it, uh, anyway, court case is fine. Let's Go Native goes on, and we've grown since then. And I think they realized that what I was planning to do was much bigger than the scope of what they're doing anyway. So I immediately was looking for kids from lots of different countries rather than just one country.
Okay.
So the scope, just the general vibe and the general kind of the outlook and my goals were much bigger than they could imagine. And now we're starting to see that in real life.
Then, I mean, you're not a direct competitor to them because the market is so big. And I'm guessing there's so many other players in this kind of space. They do it in different ways. Some of them do it better than others. Some of them probably have their own unique way of doing it. And, the students that go to those maybe enjoy it in a different way. But this is a big world. Where were they operating? Were they just only in England or?
No, they were operating in Belgium and England, yeah.
okay, but you're going into other countries as well. So, but even still, I think that's probably like an early challenge you could have probably done without when you first started. Like,
Yeah.
how soon after you started did that court case or did that
It was it was
legal issue
pretty
happen?
much immediate. It was pretty much immediate before we even had a camp. Just having a website like sparked it off, and uh, but I'll emphasize again that it happens to a lot of entrepreneurs early doors. It really does. Like no one really talks about that as a barrier to entry, but you're going to annoy your previous employer. You're going to annoy people in the industry if you're bringing something new and something fresh and something innovative. And yeah, I remember the first camp we did, and I always think back very fondly to the first camp we did. It was, I'm so surprised that we even managed to do it. We had a court case happening in the background. We were unknown. We had no social proof. And in such an industry where people are handing over their child,
That's a big
their
element of trust.
firstborn,
Yeah.
for a week of residential, and with no social proof, with a random website. I always thank whoever for that, those first 15 kids that came to that camp, because I remember our first camp. It was what, 3 years ago. It was 15 children, 15 children on this camp, and we didn't know what we were doing really, because I'd been running camps for a long time, but this was a new location, it was a new system, it was our own
You're doing
company,
everything
doing
yourself.
everything ourselves. And we managed to do it. We got the content, which was super important. We had a lot of difficulties between now and then, but I think last year in the same location, I think we sold out. We had 60 kids in the same location, where we stopped it at 60 because we want to keep the quality high. And we had kids from 17 different nationalities, 17 countries, all flying in. We had kids who were best friends from China and Ecuador together. In no life would they ever be together, but on a Let's Go Native camp, they came together, and it's just incredible. We just had camps last week, a few weeks ago, completely sold out. So we did that not by looking what anyone else was doing in the market. We just focused on quality.
This is it. Like, you can copy people and then it's just regurgitating the same stuff in different ways. If you focus on quality, your own unique way, you saw what works well there, and there. Let's package it all together. Let's do it here. Give them an experience that people can't compete with. That people will then copy you.
Which they're
You'll
doing. We see it so much. It's lovely. So one nice thing about our industry is, I like to say it's run by dinosaurs. That might offend people if they're in the industry and watching, but Habibis, you're dinosaurs. So there's nobody really doing a lot on social media. So we immediately, the first thing I did, I've worked for a lot of like companies in the past where we focus on comms, basically, on social media, on advertising, on marketing, and we build up from that way. That's what we did with this company. We went straight into social media. We built a following. We built content all around. From that very first camp, we took all based on content, getting as much content as possible. So we had enough to go for the next year on social media to be like fun little videos, pictures, kids doing exciting things. And we continued doing that. So now if you compare our social media to anybody else in the industry, we're being copied by everybody. It's great. And I find it as a nice thing, it's they're imitating us. It's flattering.
it is
It's
flattering,
very
and but
flattering.
by them copying you, it means they're behind you.
Yep.
So as long as you keep innovating, you keep trying
And
to
that's what it
focus on
forces us to do.
quality.
It
Yeah.
forces us to innovate. And I have to say, for the first 2.5 years of the business, we didn't focus on profits. Profits, like we didn't care about the money. We only focused on quality. And on everything we do. If something went wrong, we tried to improve it with quality. If we had a problem, and I remember one time a bus company, we had a bus that was supposed to be taking kids back from Netherlands to Paris. The night before the trip, our bus got stolen. I don't know by who, by some kids in Antwerp. It was found a few days later, completely burned out with like beer cans and stuff inside. So it was a party. It was a Sprinter, and it was around the time that the famous song Sprinter came out in England. So I think it was around that. But we're like, oh, okay, so we have loads of kids stuck here in Netherlands. We need to get them to Paris. It was a costly problem because we had to get an emergency bus. It cost thousands. It's just stuff that happens, in a business, and it was an obstacle. And since we had that huge obstacle, we've now got systems in place being like, okay, we always have backup trains coming from here to here, and we had to learn that. And one of my friends who's also helps me in the business, he always tells me obstacle is the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obstacle is always the way. There's been so many times where a caterer has not worked for us anymore, or they said they can't work, and we had to go and source some food that turned out to be twice as good,
For half the
half
price.
the price.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have that obstacle, we would never have like been able to streamline that business process. And that happens every blooming week in this business, and it constantly. So, if you're starting a business, don't look at obstacles as a problem. Like, see them as, okay, let me find the solution, and that solution is probably going to be the way that we're going to go in the business, and we're going to drive our profits higher in the future. It's so true. So yeah, we focus only on quality, man.
Quality is key. And I think if you have that, like this problem solving mindset is, I think every business owner I've spoken to in my entire life has this trait because you need it. And business is an unknown entity. Even like you had experience, you've worked for a company that is in a similar space, doing it in a different way. Obviously, yours is more quality in many different ways. It looks like it's apples to apples. It looks like you're basically going to be doing the same thing. You've learnt the playbook. It's just go through the steps, but it's not. And
Absolutely.
even in spite of having all of that experience, which I'm guessing helped you a substantial amount, a lot of the problems you already solved beforehand because you saw them elsewhere and you were like, right, we definitely need this, we need that, we need that. But even in spite of that, you've got your new problems that you're dealing with, new challenges, buses get stolen, food gets, yeah. So it's like, as long as you have that mindset, that perseverance, that willingness to solve problems and not get bogged down like, oh God, I've tried everything. And even
And
though,
that word is so important. Perseverance. Do you know how many people give up just before it was about to strike? And it happens so much. And I think that's the difference between being successful and not successful. It's the perseverance, and it's getting up even when everything in your body and your mind is saying, oh, I'm just so stressed, I'm so tired. It's getting up and just pushing forward anyway, and just keep on pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward. Things don't always happen how you expect them to do. Sometimes you put in an input and the output you get is not what you expected. Like, there's always the story of when they first made seatbelts a thing in the UK or in Europe. I think it might be in Volvo that first did seatbelts. Like, the whole plan was, we're going to make the roads safer. People are going to die less in cars because we have seatbelts. When they first put seatbelts in, mortality rates in car crashes went up. Why is that? Because an outcome that they didn't expect or didn't plan for happened. People started driving faster because
so
they
they
had
thought the
seatbelts.
perceived
So
safety was
because they
higher.
were safer, they started driving faster. So when they crashed into somebody, was that person safer or not safer? They were a lot less safe because the car was going twice as fast. So more people died during collisions, during crashes. And that was something that the smartest minds in the government at the time didn't count for, didn't predict. So in business, when you put things in, sometimes stuff happens that you don't expect. You have to be flexible, you have to be dynamic, you have to, just kind of be on your toes and be like, all right, that happened. How do we fix it? It's so important.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And I think if you have that mindset, if you have that, you're not going to get disheartened if things don't go your way, especially when you're dealing with people. Like, it's easy to, build this table. You're like, okay, I'm going to screw this leg, I'm going to put that in. It's going to make sense. More often than not, you're going to build the table. When you're dealing with people, things get lost, things get stolen, things get forgotten, things are late. Any number of things, one, two, three, and four, all at the same time.
Yeah.
If you don't have that ability to be flexible, to adapt, then it's very tough. And you've built to what, 3 years now? How many camps are you running this year?
This year, I think we have 12 plus one or two private camps, which are for schools.
That's brilliant. That's
Yeah,
brilliant.
we could have 20 this year. We could have 30 and we could fill them, given, our reviews are unheard of in this industry. We have only 5-star reviews on Google, which is unheard of. Usually in these situations, you have one annoyed kid or one annoyed parent or something didn't go right. Doesn't happen on our camps. We make sure everyone that leaves our camps leaves happy and leaves wanting to come back. So we could have 20, but we don't want to scale so fast.
Why not?
Because as soon as you start scaling fast and it becomes a money grab and you like, oh, we can make this profit this year,
Quality.
quality goes down.
That's
Of
it. And if
course it
quality is
does.
number one, then yeah.
If you're building a brand on quality only, how are you going to scale so fast? How are you going to have 20 camps happening in all of these different countries? Because then you have to have 20 directors who have to have the same level and attention to detail and eyes on quality. It's impossible to have. We could have 20 directors with maybe 60% of our kind of quality level or attention to detail. So that means our camps are going to be 40% worse in these areas. We don't accept that. We can't. So unless we can scale in a measured and quality driven way, there's no point. Like I say, we're here for a long time, not a short-term cash grab. And I think if you have that in your mind when you start a business, just focus on the quality, everything else will come.
So the quality, but also having a long time horizon perspective on what you're building. Like when you first started, you did one camp, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then the next year, how many camps did you do?
I think we did 4 or 5 the next year.
So it's like you times it by 3 or 4. The year after that, a few more. I'm guessing until this year, you're on 10-ish, 11.
11, 12 this year.
Yeah. And I'm guessing next year it's going to sustainably grow.
Yeah, new locations, new markets. And we just a slow and steady increase in size, increase in commitments, increase in child numbers, and keeping the quality, just eye on quality all the time, and nothing else can go wrong.
What safeguards do you put in place to maintain that quality? Obviously, staff, the key director is going to be one of the important areas.
Staff are 99% of the importance, because we're a service, right? So our product is our staff, our product is our team, and I think you find in this industry, more often than not, for the vast majority of companies, they get temporary staff to fulfill their camps. So that's a few problems. I remember I was sat in a cafe in London once, I think it was last year, and I was there just doing some work on the Let's Go Native camps, drinking a coffee, and there was a girl next to me, and she was on the phone, and she was quite frantic on the phone, and I heard just from overhearing, when you put your
Yeah, you want to eavesdrop. Sometimes we're human.
You put your headphones in transparent mode, and you can hear everything. And I was listening to her, and she worked for, I would say, the biggest summer camp company in the world currently. And she was panicking because she had a camp starting like in the next 2 days, and she didn't have a teacher for it. And I heard her calling through these teachers that she was finding online, quickly being like, "Are you available?" I think the interview process was, "Are you available to work?"
If yes, you got the job.
Now, 2 problems,
Quality.
2 main problems.
I think I can think of 100 problems.
100 problems, 2 main problems. And I say the biggest problem, safety. It's children in pastoral care staying overnight. If you can't be sure that this person is safe, if they have any bad history, if they, you know what I mean? So
Criminal.
If they have any criminal problems, if they have any bad experiences in previous camps, if you're just basically saying, "Come and work in my camp tomorrow," how can you be sure? You can't be. So that's the biggest problem working with children. Second is quality. How do you know if this person's any good? This person is your brand. This person is supposed to be delivering what you're delivering. So if you have temporary staff coming that only see your company once a year, they come once for 1 week every August, they're not in tune with your priorities. They're not in tune with your company values or your organizational kind of values.
They'll make their money and leave.
They make their money and leave.
Your reputation.
See you in a year. How can you be sure that they're going to fulfill what you need them to fulfill? So that's what the majority of people in this industry do. We don't do that. We have a team of staff that are with us throughout the year. The same team of staff who are working in our camps are also doing our customer service. They're also with us on camps in February, in April, in July, in May, in June. They're with us all through the year. So we know, one, the team is locked in to the company and the company values, and they know what to do. 2, we know that they're safe. We know that they're high quality. When we bring in new people, because of course we like to bring in new staff members, we bring them to a smaller camp. We put 2 or 3 veterans of Let's Go Native who have worked with us from the beginning. And we train them, and we see, because you can never tell by an interview, and it doesn't matter what company or what industry you're in. When you interview somebody face-to-face or online or face-to-face, you only really kind of work out who they are after you've worked with them for a year or a few weeks, and then you'll be like, didn't see that in the interview. Happens every time. Think about the last time you had a job interview, and some of the things that you stretch or some of the things that are kind of half truths. It happens in every industry. It happens to every person. We're human, right? So having them come to the camp for a week, we see if we want to bring them into the inner core, or if we say, okay, it was nice working with you. You're not quite what we're looking for. You're not quite with the value system of Let's Go Native. It's cool. You'll be great in 99% of other camps, and they will love you because actually your quality was 80%. It was really good. It's just not the 100 that we're looking for in our company. That's just how it is with us. We're
That's
all about the quality.
that's brilliant actually, because you actually don't risk any of your existing operations to through training and bringing people on board in that way. You've got someone that you've already vetted. They're there. They're facilitating. They've got other people that are there as well potentially, depending on how many students. How many students do you typically have in your camps on
Depending
average?
on the camp, anything from 25 to 60, depending on the location.
Okay, so maybe one or two or maybe three members of staff there supporting, and you've got this potential person. Do you train more than one person at the same time, or do you vet them?
So sometimes one or two we'll have in the
Okay.
bank, and we get job applications and CVs brought to us like every day. We're getting them by email, so it's like sifting through, making sure that they're basically we want people who are fun, we want people who are dynamic and energetic because it's we're working with kids, right? We don't want people who are going to be there kind of sleeping or playing on the phone the whole time. So we have a staff guide. We send them the staff's guide, and we've implemented a nice system where we pay we pay a basic amount, but then depending on performance, and when I say performance, our kind of criteria are not the typical criteria. The criteria are energy and attention to detail in terms of being empathetic to kids' needs or being available when kids need you. So we have all of these criteria, and it's quite an interesting criteria set. And when they read it, they're probably thinking, "I never even thought about doing that or that being important." For us, it's very important. And if they meet all of the criteria on the last column, they get a full wage, which is actually pretty much double the industry standard for the amount of money that they usually get for a week in camp. We pay double, but we pay double because we expect double.
And do you charge double?
So pricing is quite interesting, especially when you're entering a market, right? So we, from the very beginning, we knew we couldn't come into the market as the most expensive, because even if we were coming into the market as the highest quality, we couldn't come in and be like, our quality is amazing. We're basically the Rolls Royce of summer camps. Pay your money. There's no social proof. There's no pictures. We had to come in. So we actually came in and we were the cheapest in the market for the first year and a half, but our quality was the highest. And then slowly we bring the price up to match the quality. So we're probably medium price now in the market. We could be higher. Our product is worth higher, and I always say to people, we're not expensive. We're costly. We cost appropriately for the quality and the care and the equipment. If you look at our equipment table, there's drones, there's iPads, there's everything a kid could use to do a project, to have fun, to get the best out of them. We invest a lot in the kids, and the parents invest, an adequate amount in the price fee. We're by far not the most expensive, but we're not the cheapest either, and we don't want to be the cheapest.
I think that's brilliant. And to be honest with you, you've built on a very stable foundation. You've got the social proof, you've got the quality in check, you've got the team that you've built, and that's allowed you to sit here in Iraq managing things. I'm guessing you don't need to do any emergency flights to camps more often. Have you ever done that? If you've got the right people in place,
Right
then
people in place, but it's not necessary.
so you've actually created an environment where you've empowered your team to embody the values that you want internal to the organization, and they're representing that at the different camps throughout the year. Why not manage it from anywhere? Why did you choose here, by the way? I've got to ask. So out of all of the places, so you're born and raised in England.
Yep.
I'm guessing you've done some traveling around the world.
Yep.
How many countries roughly would you say you visited around the world?
Oh.
More than 20?
Oh yeah.
More than 30?
Yeah, for sure.
50?
Yeah, probably around here.
So you've seen so many different countries around the world.
Yeah.
Why choose Iraq?
Uh, interesting. No, when I did my masters, I did my research on the economy of here because I thought the Kurdistan region of Iraq, the KRI, had quite an interesting economic makeup where it was receiving money from Baghdad and it had its own semi-autonomous government, and we did some things on semi-autonomous governments in my course. Chose it, went here, came here to do my research in Soran University, and met a lot of people, met a lot of academics here, and ended up coming back to work in Soran University. I piloted the first English foundation year that Iraq's ever had in Soran, where we basically gave kids a year, or not, I say kids, give the young adults a year of English to make sure that English was at the correct level before they could access the university degree, where some of the courses were in English. There's no point going to learn your engineering
Yeah, if you
degree
don't know
if
how.
you can't speak English and you've got these teachers and you don't understand them. So we had to get them to a particular level, usually B1 or B2, before they could access their course. Super successful, and since there, it's just become my base. It's like it's a beautiful place. The sun is always shining. Uh, People are amazing, amazing group of friends. The way of life is a little bit different to London. You know, I've worked in London,
I
and
do know.
yeah, you know well, right? So working in London is difficult. I had a very, very, very nice job in London. Loved the city, loved the restaurants, loved the vibe. But the working life and kind of the makeup of life there is a little bit difficult for me. So I'd find myself, you know, on the Northern Line at 7:30 in the morning, going to work, back on the Northern Line after finishing work at 7:30 at home. You nip into the supermarket, go into Waitrose, you get a microwave meal, you put it in the microwave, you then go to sleep because you're so tired, and do it all again
Live to work.
5 days a week. And then on Saturday and Sunday, you're like, oh, it's the weekend, I can do things. You're too tired. You sleep for one day, you do your laundry the next day, and then you're back in work the next. Oh, I have to do that for 40 years. Are you crazy?
And a lot of people here actually, they do think the grass is green. Well, I think there's a bit more awareness now here that the grass isn't greener outside in London and places in Europe, in the United States. I like it here. And the fact that you like it here and you're not ethnically from here
Hmm.
speaks volumes to that as well. Like what do your friends say in England? Your English friends, what do they say that? Oh, he's Simon. He's in Iraq. What's he doing?
You know, Iraq still has a bad name, or an interesting kind of name, or perspective in the West, right? Because of what happened 20 years ago, and all of these things. So people are actually just uninformed.
Yes.
It's just that. It's just being uninformed. And, you know, it's amazing. We have these mobile phones with every bit of human knowledge on them in history. Google it. Have a look at Iraq yourself. Like, don't just think back to a news story you heard 20 years ago when you were a kid and say, oh, it's dangerous. No, Google it. It's the safest place I've ever been in my life. Like, you can leave your car unlocked here for 2 days. Your car's going to still be there.
I think even 2 weeks
Two
would still
weeks?
be
Yeah,
okay.
it'll be fine. If I'm walking down the street at 2 a.m. in Iraq, I'm the scariest guy in here. You know? If I'm walking down the street in London, any place in London at 2 a.m., you think I'm still going to have my phone at the end of it? Exactly.
You
So
might,
you might do,
you're a
but I'll
big
be
guy.
lucky, right? I'll be lucky. So, you know, changing our perspective on what is danger and what is a good way of life, it's about just informing yourself.
Again, it comes down to this key theme of education.
Education.
Yeah.
Education is so important.
It's literally like I've dedicated my life to education. I think it's one of the most important fundamental things that we can develop and build and create offerings around. And the fact that you're doing it here and managing to create such quality across the world, and I can only imagine what the future. Tell us about the future. So obviously you're slowly but steadily building
Hmm.
a quality base of camps in different regions. You're on, let's say, 11, 12 now. I'm guessing next year will be maybe around 15, 2 years, 20, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Tell me how you see it. And also, would you / could you do anything over here in that area?
Yeah.
But let's talk about the future first, and let's then talk about here.
So the future, you know, the future's however we kind of want it to be. So there are many trains of thought on how you scale such a business, and it's quite a unique business model, right? So it's incredibly lean. Aren't that many overheads. You don't need to have your own locations. You make deals with locations anywhere. So you can set up, if I wanted to set up a camp in Spain for next month now, what do I have to do? I phone a location, done, put some marketing on Instagram and on Google. I've got myself a camp in Spain with no overheads.
What kind of locations, like hotels, hostels?
Well, in Europe especially, there's specific locations for kind of kids trips,
Okay.
like group accommodations. So you can work in hotels or you can work in hostels, but there's usually like group accommodations that you can book, which are bunk beds. They have like bedrooms with like 5 bunk beds in there, so you can put 10 kids per room. It has like a chill space, it has an eating space, and these buildings are all contained, and there's lots of them all over the world. everywhere. So we usually just book those out, and they're very happy for the custom, right? So especially in the holidays. So usually their bread and butter are school trips. So they obviously only happen in term time. So in the holiday period, these places are usually empty, and they usually I'm contacted daily by a location saying, "Hey, do you want to come and stay in our location? Have you thought about this?" Because
They want to use the
they want to
space.
use the space in the holiday period. So we can usually negotiate quite a nice deal because it's empty otherwise.
It's like Airbnb in a way. It's
You,
like they're giving out a room they're not using anyway. Why not make a little bit of income?
yeah, exactly. So our business model is very lean. How we want to scale it, that's still up for debate, right? So there's many ways you can scale a business. You can go and set up an office as a multinational and set up an office in different regions and get managers to do it, and build your business that way. That's a great method, and it's possible. It's one of our options. You can do franchising.
Franchising, yeah.
So if we're going to franchise, we go and find similar kind of educational entrepreneurs who want to build something but would like to build it with with a business that's already established behind them.
I might want to get involved in
Yeah,
this. Maybe afterwards we can talk about
yeah,
some of that.
there you go. So and in that way, the marketing's already been done. So just because somebody is great at education and has this kind of forward thinking doesn't mean they're necessarily great at the things that come with it, like SEO,
Yeah.
like search engine optimization, marketing campaigns. Maybe they're not good at that bit. We fulfill that bit already because
Yeah,
we've
it's
done that. So being able to kind of piggyback and jump on this bandwagon that we're doing and just set up camps in your region or in whatever country it is, that's also a method. And actually, sometimes I prefer that method when I think about it, because having somebody who has skin in the game, to have a franchise, you have to pay for that franchise. So you have to be an entrepreneur. So you have a vested interest in maintaining the quality, in maintaining the brand. When you walk into any McDonald's in the world, it smells the same, it feels the same, it looks the same. It's owned by someone different in every single one.
yeah, it's like that ownership mentality versus employee mentality, and that's what you want to look for. And in a way, I mean, I like that you're going to be targeting people that have that kind of mindset and that willingness to become part owners potentially. It's a little bit like you when you were working in that camp years ago. Everything was almost taken care of. The SEO was probably done for you there. There was already their marketing, their branding was on point to a degree. You probably
Interestingly, I brought that to the.
so they didn't have that stuff before.
It was
Interesting.
me.
But
Yeah.
you're, I would say, maybe one in 100,000, maybe, or like they wouldn't stumble across you in a hurry
No, exactly.
again. Yeah.
Which is probably why they sued me. But yeah,
Yeah. But it's interesting. So, like, now I want to go back to the second point of that question. Could you / would you do something like that here? Create a camp like that? Do you think something like that would work here? One of these full immersive
residential
yeah.
native experiences.
When you say residential, the students are sleeping over.
Students sleep over.
So, like, the 7 days, they're literally with you from breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night.
Yep, stay with us. They don't see their family. They stay with us, and it's so important. The reason we set up like that, and we get offers all the time. We get inquiries where they say, "Hey, can my kid come for the day? We'll drop them off at 8 in the morning, and we'll pick them up at 8 p.m." We say, "No, that's not what we do, and we can't offer the product that we know who is great if we're doing that." So there's a reason we do it, is because waking a kid up in the morning and saying, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" Like, the first thing they do in the morning is speak English. It puts that click in their head. The last thing they see at nighttime: "Have you brushed your teeth? Oh, you brushed your teeth. Okay, good night, sleep well, we'll see you in the morning. Yeah, it's going to be fun." The last thing they hear when they go to bed is English. And throughout the day, only English. It switches their brain into that new language model that they're going to be using for the week. It's so important. And I think if you asked me 10 years ago, would it work here? Would have said no. Ask me today, would it work here? I think it would. Because I think mentality has changed in terms of education. Mentality has changed and become more progressive in terms of what education can look like. I think I was walking down the street the other day and I saw a Montessori school in here. Would that be here 10 years ago? No, it would not. It is now. So, and I think people are becoming more Western looking when it comes to education and comes to these kind of holiday trips and what they do with kids. I organised for a few kids from here, not to come to my camps, but they wanted to go to a camp in Oxford last year from Iraq. I organised it for them, and I said, I have people in England, we can look after you. So people are starting to look for these camps for networking, for it to be mixed with other people. So I think it could work here.
That's interesting, and it's true, like what you say, like 10 years ago versus now, and I'm guessing 10 years from now as well. The people that are kids, or between the ages of 20, 35, 40, they're going to grow up. They've seen this mindset, they've seen this progressive way of thinking, they've have access to social media, they know what's possible.
Hmm.
They'll want more and more of that. So I can only imagine that trend rising and rising. Question about, obviously you're a British-born entrepreneur.
Hmm.
You graduated from of a Western university. You also studied a little bit here. You've got different experiences traveling around the world. Some might say you have a little bit of privilege that a lot of people in the world might not be privy to. Do you think someone here in Iraq could do, maybe not exactly the way that you're doing it, but a similar type business model, because it's quite lean, as you say? You're managing it here remotely. What advice would you give to someone that's thinking about doing something like that? Is it a barrier for them that they have an Iraqi passport, that they are constrained here? Or do you think that in spite of that, even though that's the case, they could still do something similar? Maybe not the same. I want to make sure that I'm not trying to create competitors for you, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
So,
we don't need that. No, no, no. I welcome it, and if anyone wanted advice, they can message me, and I'll give it. And remember what I said earlier: obstacle is the way.
yeah.
Obstacle is the way. Right. So, someone with an Iraqi passport that wanted to start this business, they're an educational engineer, entrepreneur. Okay, the passport stops them from going to Europe and doing the same. It makes it more difficult, right? Europe already has hundreds of companies doing this. Their passport allows them to go to certain countries in this area where perhaps the market isn't so saturated. So the obstacle of not being able to go to Europe could be their blessing in the fact they go to a market. Go to UAE, go to any country, go to any neighboring country that your passport allows you to go
Can
to.
help them with focus. It narrows their pull down, but all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you'll see that actually we culturally you'll probably be more aligned with them, so you'll understand how they think. So you'll have a better mentality and be like, okay, we need to get this customer to trust us. We need to speak like this. Whereas if you go to Europe, perhaps the way you'd say it wouldn't really
Yeah, the
drill down.
culture's
Yeah, it's
different.
got different culture, right?
The way you communicate.
So the obstacle is the way. So with the passport, set up here, and we find more and more that, especially in this region, in this whole kind of in the MENA region, a lot of the organizations that do very well, it's not somebody that's reinvented the wheel. It's somebody that's saw what's been doing well in America, see what's been doing well in England or Europe. Oh, it's not happening here yet. Let me bring it here in a good way. Boom, successful. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I would say my advice would be start small. I started my first camp 4 years ago with 15 kids, and I fought for every damn kid that came on that camp. Like it was a struggle. It was conversations with their parents. Now with AI, you have 10 staff in your pocket.
Yeah, but I really want to talk about AI.
Hmm.
Maybe next time we have you on, we'll talk deeper about AI, because AI is going to unlock. It's already unlocking a world of opportunity in terms of efficiencies, behind the scenes, conversations, managing SEO,
I
from
leverage
A to Z.
since the start of this business, which will be about similar time to when ChatGPT started and became very popular. I've leveraged AI so much. It's like having 5 staff members
It's incredible,
in
isn't it?
all of the different functions. It's just in all the different languages. It's incredible. It's a game changer for business.
I think there's a lot of secrets to business, because behind the scenes, obviously customer facing in the actual camps, you've got people there. You can't automate that. You can't have AI. Maybe there's certain things that you could use AI for, but I think one of the key things behind the scenes, especially if you're a business owner starting now in 2025, if you can learn how to wield AI, you don't need to learn about copywriting. You don't need to have a 10 out of 10 command of the English language writing copy, or you don't need to understand web development or SEO to that degree. You can find the areas that you don't know quite quickly and get that information and learn it in the most streamlined way possible, sifting through all of the noise. Again, if you know how to wield AI, if you wield the internet as well, but AI, I think, is a very, very big one.
Saves you so much time. You know, I've even drafted legal contracts and stuff, all with AI. Got it done, and all I do is then send it to my lawyer and say, "Is this cool?" 9 times out of 10, it's like, absolutely fine. I'd change this clause a little bit. Done. It's perfect. That would have usually cost 5,000 to get this document drafted. Now it cost $100 just because it's been checked. Voila.
I think it's fantastic. And I think key message from today, I think, to leave people with is obstacle is the way.
Obstacle is the way. Persevere. Keep on going, and don't fall into this mindset that your life has to be difficult to start a business. Do it in the evenings. Do it, when you're at work. Usually you can get your job done by for a few hours. Be on your laptop. Just spend have two screens going. Have your side hustle, have their hustle. As long as you're doing your job correctly.
Yeah, make sure a key thing there. Make sure you do the job
Sure
properly.
Don't give up your job. Don't get fired. For your side hustle. And then when you're ready to make the jump, and it is a jump and it is a leap of faith, then you close down the main hustle. You turn your side hustle into the main hustle, and then you persevere and you just keep on going.
Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very, very much. And we hope to have you on the Startup Show again in the future.
See you next time.
Here on Babylon Plus. Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.